There are 4 plates on the table, but only 3 chairs are filled, and nobody at this dinner is going to mention the 4th one. You've done this every year for over a decade. Same night in December, same small Italian restaurant, same joke about ordering too much bread. Tonight, though, there's a gap at the table, and everyone is being very careful not to look at it. You are 23 the year this starts. 4 of you, crammed into an apartment with 1 working burner and a couch someone found on the street. You don't have money yet, none of you do, and that's exactly why the pact feels so easy to make. Once a year, no matter where life takes you, dinner together. And 1 rule. No talk of money at the table. Not who's doing better. Not who's struggling. Just the 4 of you, the way you've always been. For the first few years, the rule is easy to keep, because there's nothing yet to hide. You're all roughly the same. Same tiny apartments, same complaining about rent, same splitting the bill 4 ways without thinking twice. Money hasn't entered the friendship yet, not really. It's still just a number in the background, the same for everyone, so there's nothing to compare. Then, one person's income moves first. It's a small thing at the start. A promotion nobody talks about at dinner, but the signs are there. A nicer coat, a phone that's clearly new, a story about a vacation dropped into conversation and then dropped just as fast, like it was said before anyone could think too hard about it. What's interesting is what happens next, because it isn't pride. It's the opposite. The person who's suddenly earning more starts hiding it, softening it, downplaying it around the people they've known the longest. Not because they think their friends will be unkind. Because some old, quiet part of them is afraid that being seen as ahead means being loved differently. This is a strange thing about money that almost nobody says out loud. People don't usually hide their income because they're ashamed of having it. They hide it because they're afraid of what it might change between them and the people who knew them before they had it. Meanwhile, the new income does something else, something almost nobody notices happening in real time. The apartment gets a little bigger. The car gets a little newer. The dinners out get a little more frequent. None of it feels like a decision, it feels like just living slightly differently now that there's room to. This is the part nobody warns you about when the money first arrives. Your spending doesn't grow because you plan for it to. It grows quietly, automatically, right alongside your income, until one day you look back and realize the extra money you were supposed to be saving simply became the new normal instead. You were never reckless. You just kept adjusting your life upward 1 comfortable inch at a time, until the raise you got 2 years ago has completely disappeared into a life that now requires it. At the dinner table, none of this is said. But it doesn't need to be said to be felt. One of you starts ordering the same modest dish every year, the same one, long after they could probably afford something else. It isn't really about the price of the dish. It's about not wanting to be the one who looks like they've changed, in front of the people who remember exactly who you used to be. Around this time, you have a secret of your own, and it has nothing to do with the dinner. You're engaged. Your partner doesn't know about the debt you carried through your late 20s, the kind you paid off in silence, the kind you told yourself didn't matter anymore because the number was finally gone. But the number was never really the thing you were protecting. What you were protecting was an identity, the version of you that never struggled, the confident, capable version your partner fell in love with. Admitting the debt existed would mean admitting that version was, for a while, not entirely true. And somewhere along the way, you'd quietly decided that your money mistakes said something permanent about who you were, instead of something temporary about what you'd been through. You don't tell them. Not yet. At the 6th dinner, 1 chair is empty for the first time. Marcus. Business had failed the year before, you'd heard about it secondhand, the way you hear about most hard things now, from someone else, weeks after it happened. He doesn't come to the 7th dinner either. Or the 8th. It's not that anyone stopped inviting him. It's that shame is a very effective kind of distance. He isn't avoiding the friendship. He's avoiding the version of the conversation where someone might ask how he's really doing, and he'd have to actually answer. What's happening to Marcus is something worth sitting with for a moment, because it isn't really about the failed business at all. It's about what failure does to a person's sense of who they are. Somewhere in his mind, the business collapsing had quietly turned into evidence, proof that he wasn't as capable, as smart, as put together as the version of himself he'd been presenting at every one of these dinners for a decade. And rather than let 3 people who loved him see that evidence up close, he simply stopped showing up. Financial shame rarely announces itself. It just goes quiet, and quiet is very easy to mistake for fine. 2 empty years pass like that. 3 plates instead of 4 becomes the new normal, and somehow, that feels easier to accept than bringing it up. Meanwhile, without anyone at the table saying it directly, a kind of silent scoreboard has been running underneath the friendship the entire time. Who's ahead? Who's behind? Who used to be the broke one and now clearly isn't? Who used to be the stable one and quietly isn't anymore? Nobody wrote these rankings down, nobody would even admit to keeping them, but they were there, in the pauses after certain stories, in the way certain topics got changed a little too quickly. This is the quiet mechanics of comparison. It doesn't need permission to run in the background of a relationship, and it rarely announces itself until it's already done its damage. At the 10th dinner, something finally breaks the pattern. It isn't dramatic. Nobody raises their voice. One of you, halfway through dinner, just says it plainly, that this rule, the one that was supposed to protect the friendship, might actually be the thing that's slowly killing it. That watching each other get quieter every year, more careful, more polished, more distant, has hurt more than any honest conversation about money ever could have. Nobody argues. There's a long pause, the kind that usually means someone is about to admit something. One of you finally says the coat, the phone, the vacation, that was real, and also, it came with more stress than anyone at this table would guess, and a strange fear of being resented for it. Another admits ordering the cheaper dish every year wasn't about money at all anymore, it was about not wanting anyone to think they'd changed. And you, quietly, for the first time, say the word dead out loud at a dinner where money was never supposed to be mentioned. Saying it doesn't feel like losing anything. It feels, oddly, like finally being in the room again. Marcus isn't there to hear any of it. But somebody, that night, finally calls him. Not to check on him gently, the way people do when they're afraid of the answer, but to say plainly that his seat has been empty for 2 years and it's time to fill it again. You go home that night and tell your partner about the debt. Not because the fear disappears, but because you finally understand what the 10 years at that table just taught you. The people who stay close aren't the ones who never had anything to hide. They're the ones who eventually stopped hiding it. The pact changes after that. Not officially, nobody writes it down, but everyone at the table understands it differently now. It was never really about avoiding the subject of money. It was about avoiding the discomfort underneath it. Pride, comparison, shame, the fear of being seen differently once the number is known. The new version of the rule is simpler and much harder. Say the true thing, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because the version of the friendship built on comfortable silence was never as strong as it looked. Which brings you back to tonight. 4 plates. The 4th chair, empty for 2 years, filled again for the first time, Marcus, a little thinner, a little quieter, ordering the same thing he used to order before any of this happened, and for once, nobody reads anything into it. Nobody needs to. Somewhere between the bread and the second glass of wine, someone asks how business is going, directly, plainly, the way you would have asked 10 years ago before any of you had anything worth protecting. Marcus answers honestly. It isn't a triumphant answer. It's just a true one. And the table stays exactly as warm as it was before he said it. Here is the part almost nobody tells you about money and the people you love. It was never the number that pulled you apart. 2 people can have wildly different amounts and still sit easily at the same table, still laugh at the same old joke about too much bread. What actually pulls people apart is the quiet agreement to stop telling each other the truth about it. The promotion nobody mentions, the lifestyle that quietly grows to swallow every raise, the shame that keeps a person away for 2 years over a business that simply didn't work, the silent scoreboard nobody admits to keeping. Money doesn't ruin relationships by making people different. It ruins them by making people go quiet at exactly the moment honesty was the only thing that could have kept them close. The friendships and the marriages and the families that make it through money aren't the ones that avoided the subject for 20 years. They're the ones that learned, eventually, painfully, that the silence was always more dangerous than the truth ever could have been.